After years of trying for a baby, I finally got pregnant, but my husband sneered, "Don't count on me to celebrate." Okay, I'm still shaking, but this isn't about fear anymore. It's pure, unadulterated rage. I've held this in for weeks, for months, for years, but the truth needs to come out, because some people deserve to know exactly what they walked away from. When I finally saw those 2 pink lines after years of heartache, 2 miscarriages, 1 chemical, countless tears cried in bathroom stalls and car parks, I thought my world was finally falling into place. We'd spent a fortune, tracked every cycle, swallowed every nauseating vitamin. He was there for all of it. Physically, anyway. He'd hold me after a failed test, promise, "We'll get there." We always do. So, when I looked at him, shaking with joy, practically glowing, and told him the news, I expected, well, something. A hug, a smile, or really? Instead, he just blinked. No emotion. Nothing. I laughed, thinking he was in shock. "You're in shock, right?" And he just mumbled, "I just need time to process." Then, he went right back to scrolling on his phone. I remember seeing a Reddit thread about mechanical keyboards. Mechanical keyboards. More interesting than our baby. I let it go, told myself he was overwhelmed, scared. People react weirdly, right? But time kept passing and nothing changed. No questions about my appointments, no tender touches to my growing belly, no "how are you feeling?" If I brought up the baby, he'd change the subject or just go stone silent. It was chilling. I wasn't even the gushy pregnant type. I was sick, bloated, tired, with backaches. I wasn't glowing, I was surviving. And he just watched me like I was behind a pane of glass. One night, I finally looked him in the eye and asked, "Do you still want this?" His answer? "I don't know what you want me to say." Then he walked off to play his games. Not even angry, just done. I should have pushed harder then, but I was exhausted. I doubted myself, wondered if I was being too sensitive. My mom said men don't bond until the baby is born. My friend Elizabeth blamed anxiety. I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. My biggest mistake. Then came the dinner. His sister, Henley, the self-proclaimed queen of hospitality who treats every meal like a food blog post, invited us. His mom was there too, which was rare. Looking back, I think her presence was intentional. I actually felt good that night. My bump was cute, my hair curled. I wore a dress I hadn't fit into in ages. I foolishly thought maybe this would be the night he'd snap out of it. Seeing me happy, surrounded by family, maybe it would make it real for him. God, I was so stupid. Henley opened the door, and her first words were, "Wow, you're finally showing." I was starting to think it was a fake pregnancy or something. And she laughed. I just smiled tightly, walking past her, but my blood was already cold. Brandon said nothing. Not even a "don't say that." We sat down, enduring the small talk. They started discussing a trip for next year. Henley piped up, "Guess you won't be able to come with a baby and all." And Brandon, my partner, the man who said he wanted this baby, actually said, "Or without, depending on how things go." Then he laughed. I just stared at him. He looked away. My hands were on my lap, fingers digging into my thighs, trying to hold myself together. Then the baby names came up. I hadn't told anyone my ideas, but I mentioned one, just one, that I liked. Henley snorted. "That sounds like a stripper name." Silence. I looked at Brandon, just waited. He didn't even flinch. And then he said it. I swear to God, these were his exact words. "We don't even know if it's mine. Ever heard of cheating in DNA tests?" His mom went pale. Henley burst out laughing. I froze. And then Henley, because she truly is evil, added, "That kid's doomed with her as a mother." It felt like I was watching a movie, like none of it could be real. I looked around the table. No one said a word. Not one person told them to stop. My fork clattered onto my plate. I pushed my chair back, stood up, and looked directly at him. "You're right," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "This child doesn't deserve a father like you." Then I turned and walked out. No one followed. No one called my name. I just got in my car and drove home. That was 3 weeks ago. He texted once, saying I overreacted and that he was joking, trying to lighten the mood. I didn't reply. His mom texted too, apologizing for things getting tense and asking to clear the air. I blocked her number. My own mom was furious, said she would have flipped the whole table. She offered to come stay, and I think I'll let her. Because the thing is, I'm not sad. I'm incandescently angry. How dare he treat me like this? After everything we went through, the years of trying, the loss, the pain. How dare he act like this baby is a burden, or worse, a weapon to humiliate me in front of his family. I'm carrying our child, and he made a joke out of it. So no, I'm not sad. I'm done. I'm going to raise this baby without him. I'm going to build a life that doesn't include a man who jokes about DNA tests and sits silent while his family attacks me. I don't care what labels people want to use. My child will never wonder why their mom stayed with someone who treated her like she was disposable. And Brandon, he can sit with his little jokes and his silence and wonder why his room feels so empty. The quiet when I stood up that night, they all knew I was the only one willing to say what needed to be said. And now I'm making plans. I'm not going back. And if he ever wants to see me or this baby again, he better be ready to beg. Because I'm not letting this go. Not this time. Okay, so if you read my last post, you already know what happened at that dinner. The one where Brandon humiliated me while I was 6 months pregnant, where his sister laughed and called my kid doomed, where he made that disgusting crack about the baby not being his. Yeah, that dinner. I left. I walked out and I meant it. I was done. I cut off contact, blocked him, his mom, his demon sister. I moved in with my cousin Christy, who had a spare room, a mattress on the floor, and crucially, a working air fryer. I started figuring out what the hell my next move was going to be. Still pregnant, still tired, but it was weirdly peaceful. Then he showed up. Not right away, but about 10 days later, I started noticing things. A little pink onesie, still in the plastic, tags on, price marked down, sitting on the hood of my car. It looked like it had been grabbed off a clearance rack. Then, a folded piece of paper taped to my door, saying, "I miss you. Please talk to me." No name, but I knew that weird capital or anywhere. I left it. Then came the crib. A huge, heavy box left right outside the apartment. One of those fancy convertible ones. I Googled the model number. It was expensive. Why spend hundreds on a crib when you could have just not insulted our child's existence in front of a table full of laughing people? I dragged it inside, left it unopened. Christy just raised her eyebrows, wisely saying nothing. She knew I was holding back something nuclear. Then the worst part. He showed up in person. I was just coming downstairs to throw out some trash, after a hellish video call trying to figure out how to register my baby's birth without listing him as the father. And there he was, standing awkwardly by the mailboxes, like he was waiting for a package. He was holding a paper bag with a stuffed animal peeking out. He looked up, saw me and flinched. And I swear he said this. "I just wanted to give you this and talk. If you're not too busy. Not too busy." Like I'm just casually waddling around, almost 7 months pregnant, with nothing better to do than humor the man who made a joke about cheating in DNA tests at a family dinner. I told him to leave. He begged. No, just 5 minutes, just to explain. I said, no again. Then he muttered something, loud enough for me to hear, about me being dramatic and cold, and how he was trying to make things right. That's when I lost it. I walked right up to him, snatched the bag from his hand, and threw it in the trash bin next to us. I told him he doesn't get to rewrite what happened. He doesn't get to show up with overpriced furniture and toys and pretend like it was just a bad reaction, and we can just go back to normal. He said he was sorry, said he was scared, overwhelmed, didn't mean it, thought I'd get over it. I asked him, what exactly did you think I was going to get over? The part where you said maybe the baby wasn't yours? Or the part where you stayed silent while your sister called me a joke of a mother? He tried to say it was a bad night. Everyone was drinking. People say dumb things when they're nervous. I reminded him, no one was drunk. It was a Tuesday. Your sister served lemonade. Your mom drove home. There was no alcohol. He blinked like he'd forgotten. He tried to touch my arm. I stepped back. And then this is where it flipped from pathetic to absolutely infuriating. He said, I already told my mom we're working it out. She's expecting to come visit when the baby's born. I just thought we could keep this private for now, so it's not a whole thing. My jaw actually dropped. You told your family we were back together? He nodded, like it was the most normal, logical thing. I slapped him. Not hard, not out of blind rage, but pure disbelief. My hand moved before my brain even caught up. I slapped him, then turned, walked back upstairs, slammed the door, locked it, and sat on the floor just blinking. It gets worse. A couple of days later, Elizabeth called. She'd run into Henley. And Henley, apparently, was talking like nothing had ever happened, gushing about how excited she was for the baby, how glad she was that things were smoothing out, how she knew Brandon would come around eventually. That's when it clicked. The crib, the onesie, the stuffed animal, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about the baby. It was about optics. Saving face. Making sure he still looked like the golden boy who got his act together. I was fuming. So, I did what I should have done the second that crib showed up. I strapped that giant box into Christy's car with bungee cords and drove it right over to his mother's house. No text. Just knocked. His mom opened the door, looking surprised. "Oh, hi. You look well." I asked, "Is Brandon here?" She said he was at work. "Good," I said. Then, I will never forget this, I pushed the box inside the doorway, walked in, and said, "Just returning the lie he sent me." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" I said, "Your son told you we're working it out. We are not, and we will not be. And if you show up at the hospital, or my apartment, or anywhere near this child when she's born, I will file a restraining order so fast it will make your head spin." Then I turned to leave, and she said quietly, trying not to escalate, "You're making this harder than it has to be." And I just laughed. Because that's the thing, isn't it? Women like me are always making it harder, always overreacting, always too emotional or too angry when we don't let people get away with treating us like garbage. I walked out, slammed the door. I haven't heard from him directly since, but I know he's still spinning the story. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he's telling people I had a hormonal breakdown and that he forgives me, even though I lashed out. He's painting himself as the forgiving one, the mature one. I'm not even surprised anymore. It's just what he does. Makes a mess, then plays the hero for cleaning it up. But here's the thing. I'm not cleaning it up for him. He can keep his crib. He can keep his stories. He can keep pretending this baby was ever about him. Because the truth is, he never wanted to be a dad. Not really. He liked the idea of it, the role, the image. But the second it became real, the second it involved sacrifice or discomfort or, God forbid, accountability, he folded. And now he's trying to glue the mask back on. But I already saw his face. I'm getting closer to my due date now. I have a plan. I have support. Elizabeth will be with me when I go into labor. Christy already packed a hospital bag. We're figuring it out. Okay, so I know I said I was done with him after the whole crib stunt and fake reconciliation lie, and I was. But what happened after that? Yeah, no one could have prepared me for that. My daughter was born in early spring. She came a little early, but healthy, wide eyes and a little wrinkle between her eyebrows, like she was already suspicious of the world. Christy was with me in the delivery room. Elizabeth came the next morning with bagels and a balloon that said, "You did it, bitch." I didn't tell him. I didn't tell his sister. I didn't tell anyone from that side. And I didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Some people said I was being harsh, that he had a right to know. But he gave up that right the second he turned my pregnancy into a punchline. The second he let his sister laugh in my face and said nothing. The second he decided to rewrite reality instead of apologizing. I wasn't playing games. I was protecting my kid. Anyway, a few months go by. I'm adjusting. Not sleeping much, figuring things out one crisis at a time. Formula stains on every shirt. I forget what hot coffee tastes like. You know the deal. And then one night I get a message. Not from him. Not from anyone I expected. It was from Carter. Now, Carter was Brandon's best friend for a long time. They kind of drifted apart a couple years before all this. I never knew why. Brandon just said Carter got weird, started blaming him for stuff. I didn't push. Figured it was guy drama. So Carter messages me, totally out of nowhere. Just says, "Hey, I heard what happened. I know it's none of my business, but there's something you should probably know. It might explain a lot." I stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes. I was tired. Baby was sleeping on my chest. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. I typed, "Go ahead," And then he hit me with it. Apparently, back when Brandon was in his early 20s, he got someone pregnant. Not me. Not an ex I knew about, just someone he dated for like 6 months. They weren't serious. She told him, and he freaked out. Not just, I'm not ready freaked out, but full-on meltdown. He begged her not to have the baby. Said he wasn't cut out for it. Said it would ruin his life. She ended up terminating. And Brandon, he never got over it. But not in a grief way. Not like he was sad about losing a child. More like he felt betrayed that she made the decision without keeping him in control. According to Carter, he twisted the whole thing in his head, convinced himself that pregnancy is a power trap, that women use babies to manipulate, that it's always about power. And ever since then, he's had this thing. This deep, messed up resentment toward the idea of being a father, like it's some punishment waiting to happen. Carter said he noticed it when Brandon would make these dark jokes about getting tied down, or never trusting a positive test. He brushed it off at first, but then it got worse, more bitter, more mean. When I had my miscarriages, that side of him was hidden. He was supportive, or at least he looked like he was. But now that I think about it, he was more relieved than sad. I see it now. The way he would change the subject, how he never wanted to talk about trying again. How he would flinch when I showed him baby stuff. He didn't want to be a dad. Not even with me. I sat with that information for a while. It made me sick. Not because I didn't believe it, but because it fit. It made too much sense. And yeah, I know people have trauma. I know people have bad experiences and fears, whatever. But he never said a word, never gave me the chance to understand. He just let me take all the heat, let me think I was the problem, then humiliated me in front of a table full of people who would rather laugh than help. So, I decided to return the favor. I posted a photo. Not a soft one, not a sweet one. Not, look how happy I am, or single mom life, or any of that curated crap. It was me and my baby sitting on the living room floor. She had just spit up on me. I hadn't washed my hair in 3 days. She was wearing a onesie that said, "Raised by wolves and thriving." My caption was simple. You said she was a mistake, but she is the only thing I have never doubted. I knew he would see it. How? Because his sister still follows Christy, and Christy had reposted it. And Henley watches everything Christy does like clockwork. And Henley cannot resist sending screenshots to her brother. It's like a compulsion. I didn't tag him. I didn't need to. Less than an hour later, I got a message. He said the photo was unfair. Said I was dragging him publicly. Said I was alienating his daughter from him. His daughter. I laughed out loud. I wrote back, "You alienated yourself the second you made jokes about DNA tests in front of your entire family. What exactly are you trying to come back to? The baby you never wanted, or the image you're trying to fix?" He left me on read. A few days later, a letter came in the mail. A handwritten letter, like we're in some period drama. It was from his mother. She said she was concerned, worried about the long-term emotional impact of denying a child access to her father. Said she knew Brandon had struggled, but that he was trying. Said children need both parents. I didn't respond. I took the letter, folded it up, and stuck it inside a baby book I'm making. Not the cutesy kind, more like a memory archive. Real stuff. Screenshots, letters, the truth. Because one day my daughter is going to ask questions, and she deserves answers, not excuses. But here's where it gets good. I ran into Henley in public at the store. I was in the baby aisle. She was buying some soap. She saw me, tried to walk past like she didn't recognize me. I called out to her. She stopped, turned, fake smile. I said, "Hey." She said, "Hey." Awkward silence. Then she said, kind of stiff, "How is the baby?" I said, "She's great. Thanks for asking." Henley gave this weird half-laugh. Then she said, "You know Brandon is hurting, right?" I stared at her. She said, "He feels like you're punishing him." I said, "He is being punished with the truth." She said, "You don't have to be cruel." I said, "Neither did he." And then I walked away. I don't care if he's hurting. You don't get to treat people like garbage and then cry about the smell. You don't get to sabotage something beautiful and then beg to be part of it once it's convenient. You don't get to mock a pregnancy and then call yourself a father once the photos start circulating. He made his choice, and now he gets to live with it. I'm not trying to be the bigger person anymore. I honestly didn't think I'd ever hear from him again. It wasn't something I thought about every day or expected to happen. He just disappeared. No calls, no texts, no asking about our daughter, no how are you? Nothing.